Ukraine's armed forces have carried out another strategic operation targeting logistics facilities deep inside Russian territory. Ukrainian forces continue to expand the reach of their long-range strikes, with attacks penetrating further into Russia almost every week. In recent weeks, there has been a noticeable increase in operations targeting military facilities, fuel depots, logistics hubs, and critical infrastructure supporting Russia's defense industry. By striking targets far behind the front line, Ukraine aims to disrupt the Russian military's supply chain, maintaining pressure not only along the battlefield but also throughout Russia's operational depth. After conducting a series of attacks against strategically important facilities, Ukrainian forces launched another operation today, targeting two separate logistics centers inside Russia. Ukrainian drone operators, who have maintained constant pressure on Russian airspace through long-range drone operations, struck targets in two different regions during the night of July 24th. Overnight, the St. Petersburg and Tver regions came under a wave of unmanned aerial vehicle attacks. Following the strikes, large fires broke out at the targeted storage facilities. According to local sources, parts of several warehouses were completely destroyed, while numerous emergency response teams were dispatched to contain the fires. One of the targeted facilities was reportedly located near the village of Novosaratovka in the Vsevolozhsky district. Although situated outside the administrative boundaries of St. Petersburg, the site is considered an important logistics hub closely connected to the city. Initial assessments indicate that the targeted facilities were not frontline military bases. However, logistics centers of this type are believed to play an important role in supplying both civilian and government institutions. As a result, such strikes create more than just physical damage. They can also disrupt transportation, distribution, and supply operations. Even temporary interruptions to the logistics network can force resources to be redirected towards security measures, while requiring Russia to implement additional defensive precautions across its interior regions. From a military perspective, one of Ukraine's primary objectives appears to be forcing Russia to deploy additional air defense systems not only along the front line, but also around critical infrastructure deep inside the country. This could require part of Russia's rear area air defense assets to be relocated away from the front, potentially reducing the level of protection available to frontline forces. Such an approach is widely regarded as one of the key principles of modern deep strike doctrine. In addition, the regular targeting of Russian territory by unmanned aerial vehicles has effects beyond material damage. It also influences the overall perception of security. Higher alert levels around critical areas, the continuous activation of air defense systems, and periodic disruptions to civilian air traffic create an additional operational burden for Russian security agencies. Maintaining a constant state of readiness forces security resources to be distributed across multiple regions, while also complicating command and decision-making processes. The growing number of deep strike operations in recent days also appears to be increasing psychological pressure on Russian authorities and security institutions. The fact that locations hundreds of kilometers from the front line can still be reached has prompted discussions about adjustments to Russia's domestic security planning. Analysts suggest this may increase pressure on the military command, require the redeployment of air defense assets, and necessitate additional operational measures. Through these long-range attacks, Ukraine seeks not only to destroy physical targets, but also to complicate Russian logistics, disperse defensive resources, and extend the cost of the war far beyond the front line. Ukraine did not stop with these strikes. It also carried out another high-value operation. Operators from the Phoenix unit destroyed a Russian Buk M3 surface-to-air missile system worth approximately $50 million, while it was being transported toward the front line in the Donetsk region. Recorded by a drone camera, the strike demonstrated the precision and patience of the Ukrainian drone operator, who tracked the moving target in real time before delivering the attack. Despite the system remaining in motion, it was continuously monitored, highlighting the growing reconnaissance and target acquisition capabilities of Ukrainian operators. Waiting for the ideal moment before striking with a single precise hit showcased the high level of planning and coordination behind the operation. The destruction of a modern air defense system, such as the Buk M3, represents more than a financial loss. It also creates gaps in Russia's air defense network, leaving frontline units more vulnerable to drones and aerial attacks. Eliminating the system before it reached its deployment area also disrupted Russia's planned force positioning. Since the beginning of the war, Russia has suffered not only significant personnel losses but also the destruction of military equipment worth billions of dollars. Losing a single military system valued at approximately $50 million adds to those mounting costs. Losses of tanks, armored personnel carriers, artillery systems, air defense assets, and electronic warfare equipment continue to increase Russia's logistical burden, while replacing these systems requires substantial financial resources and valuable time. Ukraine's growing use of precision drone strikes allows relatively inexpensive platforms to destroy highly valuable Russian military assets, providing an important advantage in the economic dimension of the conflict. The increasing frequency of these operations also indicates that Ukraine is improving its ability to detect and eliminate critical targets behind the front line, making it progressively more difficult for Russia to move high-value military equipment safely toward combat zones. Ukrainian forces also achieved another major success in a separate sector of the battlefield. The Russian military launched a large-scale armored assault toward the Dobropilya direction in an attempt to break through Ukrainian defensive positions. However, the operation ended with heavy Russian losses. Fighters from the Phoenix Brigade coordinated closely with other Ukrainian units and successfully stopped the assault before Russian forces could achieve any significant advance. As a result of the operation, 9 tanks, 2 armored vehicles, 3 Grad multiple launch rocket systems providing fire support, and dozens of Russian soldiers were eliminated. The attack significantly weakened Russia's offensive capability within a short period. Before the assault began, Ukrainian reconnaissance drones continuously monitored the movement of Russian armored units, identifying the convoy's intended route of advance. The coordinates were immediately relayed to frontline units, allowing artillery batteries and FPV drone teams to engage simultaneously. After the first successful strikes, the Russian convoy quickly lost its formation. Vehicles trapped within the narrow advance corridor became easy targets and were destroyed one after another. The destruction of the tanks forming the backbone of the assault completely halted the offensive's momentum. Once the supporting Grad rocket systems were also neutralized, Russian forces lost both their fire support and their ability to continue advancing, ultimately forcing them to retreat. Ukrainian troops also continued to perform effectively in defensive operations throughout the day, while maintaining a high level of operational momentum. Rather than remaining solely on the defensive, Ukrainian forces continue launching counterattacks whenever opportunities arise, keeping constant pressure on Russian units. The rapid sharing of real-time intelligence gathered by reconnaissance drones with artillery units has significantly improved Ukraine's operational effectiveness. Precision strikes against armored formations continue to inflict serious losses on expensive Russian military equipment while disrupting planned offensive operations. Having successfully repelled Russian assaults while simultaneously conducting counteroffensive actions, the Ukrainian military continues to maintain the initiative on the battlefield. The series of operations carried out in recent weeks demonstrates the growing effectiveness of Ukraine's reconnaissance, coordination, and precision strike capabilities. Meanwhile, Every unsuccessful Russian offensive increases the cost in both manpower and military equipment. These developments suggest that Ukraine continues to effectively combine defensive and offensive operations while maintaining sustained pressure on high-value Russian military targets across the battlefield.